We're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the top stories making headlines.
He's been getting threats to his life in that province. We have beefed up his security.
National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola says KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's security has been beefed up following threats against him.
Do you understand that emojis and vague responses are not an indication of consent or reciprocation?
Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge found it difficult to reconcile the proposition that his advances towards a judge's secretary Andy Swamengo were unwanted.
It's definitely a threat for our businesses. If you look at our GDP, our balance of payments, if you bring it more down to home as well, it affects job losses.
And experts say global trade in South Africa will be significantly affected by the 30% tariffs imposed by the United States. Good evening and welcome to Prime News on 3. It's a pleasure to be in your company this evening as we bring you the latest news happening in and around your world. I am Paulette Nell. We start first with this. National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola says KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's security has been beefed up following threats against him. Masemola was speaking in a virtual media briefing during the police's firearm destruction operation in Vanderbijl Park in the Vaal today.
In terms of physical protection, you know that, as I said, he's been getting threats to his life in that province. We have beefed up his security, but he won't be persecuted. From my side, surely there will be no persecution of any member of South African Police Service, not only him, but anyone.
Quick one, the dockets Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi referred to that were allegedly taken away to SABC headquarters. What is the National Commissioner's understanding of that alleged decision?
Well, I think you have seen in the media it is a to and fro. We rather leave that space to allow that we, as the President said, he will intervene, let him intervene, and those will be matters that are subject to investigation. It will not assist the nation that General Mkhwanazi says something, General Sivia says something, and I say something. And so I think the space has been met enough. Let's leave that for investigation.
National Assembly Speaker Togo Didiza has directed Parliament to consider on an urgent basis revelations concerning the safety and security of the country. The committees that are going to urgently look into this matter are Police, Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. That's in light of statements by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is affiliated with persons linked to criminal activities. Didiza wants the portfolio committees to, in terms of their respective mandates, consider security matters and report to the National Assembly. Still on this, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has since responded to Mkhwanazi's allegations, stating that he has never met controversial businessman Vusumuzi Cat Matlala. The minister further says whilst he knows and has met Mr. Brown Mokhotsi, he is just a comrade and not his associate.
In response to the recent allegations made by Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi, and while respecting the President's call for calm, the Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, feels it is important to clarify the following. The Minister has never met Mr. Matlala, has never spoken to him, nor has the Minister ever requested or received anything from him. The Minister did, however, initiate a review of the SAPS tender awarded to him when suspicions of possible wrongdoing surfaced. It was the same tender which has since been terminated. Furthermore, whilst the Minister knows and has met Mr. Brown Mokhotsi, he is just a comrade and not an associate of the Minister. The Minister has never requested or received anything from him.
the murder-accused and controversial businessman Vusumuzi Cat Matlala has been found with a cell phone inside his cell at Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Services in Pretoria. Correctional Services Department says that this happened over the weekend and has led to Matlala being moved to the CMAX section of the prison. But who is Cat Matlala and what is this controversy around him?
SARS conducted a raid at Miss Mkize's home, the owner of a well-known soccer club. During that raid, a whole cache of firearms were seized. All of those firearms were registered to a security company belonging to none other than Mr. Cat Matlala.
Vusi is an extremely dangerous man and also a very important man for those who are involved with organized crime, especially for those in government who are involved and senior police officials.
Through a minnow company with no track record in the occupational health industry, which had only existed for 5 years and was actually run out of a Boksburg strip mall, had won this 360 million rand police tender.
Those tenders still being given out in the manner that they're given out speak to deep-rooted corruption. Because when you follow due process and you investigate who the individual is, you find the number of investigations that speak to the individual in question.
Please note that the following story may be upsetting to sensitive viewers. During cross-examination, Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge found it difficult to reconcile the proposition that his advances towards a judge's secretary, Andiso Mengo, were unwanted, as well as the allegations that his use of certain emojis, such as the peeled banana, were intended to convey a sexual message.
During cross-examination by evidence leader Advocate Salome Skeepers, Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge was at pains to hold on to his version that at no point was he given a no in his pursuit to relate with Judge's secretary, Andiso Mengo.
Do you understand that emojis and vague responses are not an indication of consent or reciprocation, but possibly a coping mechanism in an uncomfortable situation like the complainant testified? She was trying to cope.
Cope with what?
The messages.
How so? I don't understand.
She did not know how to respond to you and you kept on messaging her.
No, but from what I'm seeing here, it is a far cry from the proposition that you are making.
Also found it difficult to accept the proposition that Mengo had no room to say no because she viewed him as a judge president, with the top judge stating that when he related to her, it was as a social being, seemingly trying to advance the argument that his status was immaterial.
I never imposed myself as a JP when I was talking to her. Certainly not upon reading here. So in our social setup, it doesn't matter what culture it is. You don't deal with people from the perspective that, do you know that I'm a JP?
Evidence leader Advocate Salome Skeepers pressed the top judge on various instances where his version seemingly appeared to be not consistent with the sensual sexual tone of the conversation between the pair. The tribunal continues. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back. Let's continue with this. Global trade in South Africa will be significantly affected by the 30% tariffs imposed by the United States. Experts warn that not only will competitiveness suffer, but economic growth will also likely take a negative hit.
Nedbank describes the recent developments surrounding the tariffs as a roller coaster. The situation is further complicated by the potential loss of the African Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA, which allowed sub-Saharan African countries to trade in the U.S. without tariffs. The implications for businesses in this sector are concerning.
It's definitely a threat for our businesses. If you look at our GDP, our balance of payments, if you bring it more down to home as well, it affects job losses, possible threats and challenges around economic and financial stability of South Africa.
While minerals such as platinum group metals, gold and chrome are exempt from tariffs, other industries will not be spared from potential fallout.
Each sectors and industries have its own flat tariffs. If you look at automobile, which is one of the great base GDP contributors. That's a flat 25%. Steel, aluminium, agriculture, they all have basically different tariffs over and above the 30%.
Calls are growing louder for South Africa to diversify its markets. President Cyril Ramaphosa has urged local companies to accelerate their diversification efforts. However, Professor Daniel Meyer from the University of Johannesburg warns that this transition will not be easy for a variety of reasons.
It's really going to be difficult because we're not so competitive. We're quite isolated in the southern point of Africa. The distances make it very expensive to transport items. So I would say that let's save this AGOA agreement basically and talk about 0 to 0.
Diabosito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Trump administration's decision to extend a negotiating deadline for tariff raids is prolonging uncertainty and instability for a number of countries. That's a warning from the United Nations Trade Agency.
As the global trade war intensifies, a number of countries are watching these developments with a great deal of anxiety.
As you know, since February, the United States has imposed tariffs on 70% of total EU trade with the United States. The scale and the scope of these measures is unprecedented.
The United Nations International Trade Center says this move extends a period of uncertainty.
G7 countries, which together account for around 3/4 of all official development assistance, are set to slash their aid spending by 28% next year, compared to 2024 levels.
U.S. President Donald Trump says August 1st remains effective date for U.S. tariffs.
I would say firm, but not 100% firm. If they call up and they say, would like to do something a different way, we're going to be open to that. But essentially, that's the way it is right now, yeah.
Some analysts say South Africa should not depend on America for its exports revenue.
There is a direct connection between BRICS and the attitude of Trump towards the tariffs and even the date on which they are announced. Okay. However, from a South African point of view, there is another angle to it, because from 2012 in our NDP, National Development Plan, it was already documented there that we should diversify our market.
Kyle Kumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Defense and Military Veterans Minister Njimo Tshekga has confirmed that all soldiers who were deployed to the Eastern DRC have been evacuated. This after heavy criticism on the deaths of 14 SANDF soldiers in the beginning of the year in the ongoing war in the Eastern DRC.
New complaint. Both Parliament and the Executive say the allocated budget is not enough to deal with the challenges of the defense. 57 billion has been allocated for the department, and the South African soldiers are home at less than 5 billion rand in the medium term.
Their efforts will never be forgotten. We welcome all of them back home. Meanwhile, Chair, all our prime mission equipment has also been withdrawn from the Eastern DRC. It's currently in Tanzania. It's being verified, will be loaded back by air and sea, and will be back home.
Growing concerns on the illegal migration and the monitoring of the country's porous borders.
Financial year, we must, in partnership with Parliament, take a strategic decision on how our military can enhance internal security in line with the constitutional mandate of the Republic of South Africa.
We cannot allow fiscal challenges to undermine capacity of this crucial institution in our democratic order. Whether you like it or not, the whole of Europe moved their budget from 2% of the GDP to 5%. As a result of the developments in Tehran and Tel Aviv recently.
The plight on military veterans still remains a sore point to some. Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's continue with some news from the African continent. And now, the United Nations Human Rights Office has expressed deep concern over the violence that unfolded during the Sama protests in Kenya on Monday. It has also condemned the killings and destruction that took place as police and security forces responded to demonstrations in the country's capital of Nairobi.
Kenyan police fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse protesters in Nairobi, who were commemorating the 35th anniversary of the pro-democracy Sama rallies. Tensions have been running high in the country since the death of blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody back in June this year, marking a year since the anti-government Gen Z protests took place. United Nations Human Rights Office spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani called for calm and restraint.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, renews his call for calm and restraint and full respect for the freedoms of expression, association, and peaceful assembly. It is essential that legitimate grievances at the root of these protests are addressed.
At least 2 hospitals in the country have sustained significant damage as a result of the protests. Dermatologist Tatio Saningo reflected on what had happened.
There was some damages all around, and at least the healthcare workers took safety, and they had even to masquerade as they had to camouflage as patients.
Chairperson of Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, Peterson Wachira, has urged the government to take action to protect healthcare workers.
We are putting the government on notice that all health facilities, and especially those ones in the hotspots, must be provided with armed security from the Kenya police.
The death toll from anti-government protests has risen to 31 since June this year, with more than 100 people being injured. Bonolo Maribe, SABC News.
The Springboks coaching staff believes the wholesale changes made to the team to face Italy will give them an opportunity to try different combinations going forward. The Springboks takes on Italy on the second test match at the Nelson Mandela Stadium in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape on Saturday.
Springboks players are wrapping up their training schedule. Players who looked composed and confident during training session. Head coach Rassi Erasmus has selected a 5-3 split in favor of the forwards. Despite the wholesale changes, the Springboks are not underestimating the Azuri.
We're really looking forward to the game. The guys are locked in, and like I said, like Marco just said now, from Monday, we started with our preparation. The guys is locked in, focus, and execute everything.
Ball carrier Marco van Staden says they are targeting breakdown scrum, where Italy excelled.
They had a big focus on the breakdown, disrupting our play and slowing our ball down so we can't get rhythm. So that was definitely a big tactic of them. And yeah, to try and disrupt where they can.
Experienced fullback Vili Leroux will end his 100th test match for the Boks on Saturday, while World Rugby Player of the Year Peter Steph Dutoy makes a welcome return from injury to earn his 87th cap. Lok Salman Murat will captain the team, taking over from GC Kriel, while regular captain Sia Kolisi dealt with a niggling injury. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Gqeberha.
Let's quickly dash over to the weather desk to see what the weather has in store for us. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at what to expect weather-wise for tonight as well as tomorrow. We do have a cold front approaching ahead of its strong northwesterlies, with isolated showers and rain expected along the southwestern coastline and the adjacent interior. However, it will be clear skies across most parts of the country, partly cloudy in places over the Eastern Cape this evening. Tomorrow we see that cold front slipping south, clear skies across most parts of the country, just partly cloudy over the southwestern parts with isolated showers and rain expected. Now tonight, the South African Weather Service is warning of damaging winds along the northern coastal regions of KwaZulu-Natal, possibly leading to difficulty in navigation at sea, and then damaging interior winds with possible difficult driving conditions over the northern parts of the Eastern Cape. So please do take caution in those regions. Our overnight temperature is seeing Daar and Graafrenet down to 6 degrees. Richards Bay starting off at 14 tomorrow. Cape Town at 10. Pretoria, a minimum of 5, peaking at 18 tomorrow. Will be cold in Bloemfontein, Johannesburg and Ermelo with a maximum of 17. 16 is your maximum in Sutherland, Worcester, as well as in Cape Town, Calvinia. A cool day with a maximum of 21. A well-developed cold front expected to make landfall on Friday. Isolated showers and rain over the western as well as the southern parts of the country, but mainly scattered along the southwestern coastline and the adjacent interior. Temperature-wise, expecting it to be cold to cool in places, but very cold over the western parts of the Western Cape. And then on Saturday, seeing those showers and rain along the coastal regions of the Eastern Cape and in places over KwaZulu-Natal. That's your weather. Just stay tuned to SABC News.
Well, that concludes our time together this evening. Much gratitude for joining us. Until next time, it's good night and God bless.